You are Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Dallas, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Here we go. Welcome into the Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST, the very first edition, your home for the best Dallas Mavericks coverage. I am Jeff Biggs, longtime host and reporter. Thank you for watching Locked On Sports, your destination after every single game, Locked On Sports Dallas. And you can also find us on the Locked On Mavericks podcast feed. I was hoping, this is my debut show tonight. My name is Jeff Biggs, great to be with you. I was hoping that my very first show would be a Mavs win, but that was not the case tonight. But I'll tell you what, all that aside, and we'll get into it, we've got to go over what happened in this game, how the Mavs almost pulled it out, what happened, what were some of the issues, and what we can kind of look forward to. But we'll get into the game in its entirety. But I'll tell you what, for a November game on a Sunday night, game number, 17 on the season, that was a great basketball game. I mean, that was tremendous. And one of the things that you'll hear me say is game respects game. And you could tell this was one of those games tonight where Jimmy Butler knew that Kyrie was playing, and they brought it. And I mean, it helped that Miami has been off since Monday. I mean, that didn't hurt, especially down the stretch. But I was really impressed. It was tough to see the way the Mavs lost, and we'll get into that. 123-118, the final in overtime. Today's episode, by the way, is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And for me, my big keys going into the game tonight were, okay, can the Mavs keep the streak going, right? How would the Mavs come out after the big win Friday night in Denver? We know they had a tough trip flying there, but how would they respond after such an emotional win playing in the high altitude? And what about the points in the paint? What about everybody kind of stepping up in the absence of Luka? All those things were an issue tonight. And I mean, if you want to kind of break it down into simple terms, I mean, it really comes down to, it's a make and miss league. It's a make and miss game. And the Mavs were 10 of 40 from beyond the 3-point line with a lot of misses down the stretch, shots that we would expect. I mean, I don't think that's going out on a limb saying we would expect them to knock those down, and they didn't fall tonight, especially for Kyrie. He had Spencer Dinwiddie missed 4 of them in the overtime. The Mavs were outscored in the OT 9-4. I mean, that's not going to get it done. But look, I mean, in a 5-point game, 123-118, right? Mavs were 10 of 40. The Heat were 14 of 41. So it's not like they were that much better, but it just seemed like every time the Mavs would get close and kind of fight their way back, and even when they finally took the lead in the fourth quarter, the Heat were able to knock down big three after big three after big three. And so just a tough one. Obviously, if Luka's playing, different story, number one. But I like the way that this team is growing and coming together. I like the way you can tell that they're a team. I just think that this was a great opportunity to okay. I mean, they've had some big wins, big win at Denver, the big win at OKC, but they're not where they want to be yet. And for this team, I mean, the goal is simple. It's about winning the championship. That's it. They made the finals last year. It's about getting back and winning it this year. So they're not where they want to be yet. And there's, as great as last season was, it's all about this season. New season now. This team has to come together. This team has to gel. This team has to get hot and find ways to win games down the stretch. And I thought this was, like I said, a great Sunday night November game. against a Heat team that they're not going to be contenders, but they have veterans and they know how to shoot threes. And Jimmy Butler came to play tonight. I mean, you can say what you want about where he's at now in his career, but he can still bring it. He can still get to the basket. And you could tell this one was a little bit extra for the Heat, a little bit more than just any other game. And that's, like I said, that goes back to game respecting game and the Heat wanting to kind of go after Kyrie and the Mavs, a team that went to the finals a year ago. And it was that kind of game and didn't look that way. I mean, the Mavs got off to a tremendous start. Remember like a week ago, we were talking about this team getting better, getting off to good starts, and how were they going to kind of get and solve that. Now they're getting off to great starts. Now it's finishing in the second half and closing out games. But again, you still have this unit that's trying to get used to each other and their roles. And I thought there were some really good moments, some things that you didn't want to see. But all in all, a well-played game. Disappointing that they didn't get the win. And I mean, tough turnaround. I mean, they have to literally fly out, go to Atlanta, go again tomorrow night against the Hawks, and then back home to play the Knicks on Wednesday night. That is life in the NBA. But a couple of things that stood out. I mean, Kyrie, he's had such a great season, and he's hit so many big shots. There were a handful that he didn't make down the stretch that I would think that he would normally make. That was tough. I thought Spencer Dinwiddie, look, you want him to find his spot. You want him to find his role. He made some really big plays, made some really good defensive plays, but man, the Mavs, like I said, 10 of 40. They had a lot of misses down the stretch, and were having a hard time knocking those down when they needed. So that was tough. The bench had 9 points in the first half. They finished tonight with 37. So not quite what they've been averaging. It's close. I mean, they played better in the second half for sure. The points in the paint, I don't have those final numbers. I'll get those during the timeout. But the winning streak is over. Hoping it was going to be a high five tonight. That would have been a really good win. I thought the Mavs absolutely played well enough to win. Certainly they deserved to win with the way that they played and some of the big moments that they had. But they went up against a veteran, savvy, battle-tested, well-coached team. And Miami was just better down the stretch. And the Mavs also just, again, the shot was not there like it's been. 10 of 40, that's a lot of misses. I mean, that's in a 5-point game, that's a lot of misses from downtown. So we're going to get into the numbers, but I like the start. Tough to see kind of the Heat get back into the game. It was a 5-point game at halftime, and after the Mavs finally came back and took the lead in the fourth quarter, you thought, okay, and Kyrie had a really big three to put them up at that point. You thought, okay, maybe this is Kyrie time. Now they're going to pull it out. Now they're going to get the win, and they're going to be okay. And it just didn't happen. Give them the Heat credit. A couple of those plays by Jimmy Butler. The one play after the missed free throws by the Mavs when Butler was open under the basket on the pass from Kevin Love. That was big. And then the inbounds and the dunk by Jimmy Butler to tie the game and send it into overtime. I mean, those were big time NBA veteran plays, and you give the Heat credit. Again, they're not the Pelicans. They're not some of the other teams the Mavs have been able to beat up on. Good team, and the Mavs literally just came up 5 points short. All right, when we come back, we're going to go over the game. We're going to go over some of the highlights from tonight's game, some of the numbers. We'll get that for you as well. And again, my name is Jeff Biggs. This is the debut of the Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST. Now, again, Basically, in addition to the great work that Nick Anstedt does with the whole crew, with Isaac and Slightly Biased, this show, literally, because the Mavs channel is so big and so popular, this is just an added show. I'm not. Nick is going to be doing his shows during the week with the crew and getting you ready for every game, and they're going to be breaking down this game tomorrow in more detail. This show is literally supposed to be right like we're doing tonight, right after the game ends. We're live with you. We want to make it interactive. We want to hear your comments. We want to let you sound off and get your opinions and hear what you have to say. So that's what this show is for. But again, Nick and the crew, they're going to be here. This is just, again, an added bonus for after each and every Mavs game. We're going to be here with you live on the Locked On Dallas channel and also on the Locked On Mavericks podcast feed. So make sure you join us after every game. All right, quick timeout. And when we come back, we'll get into more numbers and more of the notes. Tough one for the Mavs tonight. They lose in overtime to the Heat, 123-118. This is the Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST podcast. All right, all my fellow dads out there, you can probably relate to this. Our underwear drawers have not had a good update in quite some time. I was always partial to something simple and classic when it came to my own underwear. So I was never sure what I was doing when it was time to replace my old pairs with something new. And then I tried Skims Cotton 3 boxer briefs. And it's everything I loved about my classic boxer briefs, but honestly, better. They're the perfect weight, the perfect classic cotton feel, and the design is really nice, really simple, and it's how I like it. From now on, this dad is going with Skims. So you can shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Let them know we sent you there, and after you place your order, select podcast in the survey, and you can select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Pretty cool that they can do that. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, welcome back to the Locked On Mavericks postcast. My name is Jeff Biggs. Tough night for the Mavs tonight. They fall in overtime to the Heat in Miami, 123-118, snapping the 4-game winning streak. Let's take a look at the points in the paint numbers. I wanted to double check on that. That's the one number that I wrote down. I did not write down because we were trying to get on as quickly as possible. But you look at the shooting percentages, 44 of 105 for the Mavs, 46 of 107. So, again, close, 10 of 40 from beyond three-point line, 14 of 41. And as crazy as it was in the first half with all of the trips to the free throw line that the Heat had, the refs, give the refs credit. One thing, they always do a pretty good job most nights of trying to balance things out as the game goes on, right? And so at the end of the day, the free throws, 20 of 25 for Dallas, 17 of 27 for Miami. So that evened up a little bit there. Points in the paint. Okay. I mean, the Mavs were right there. They had 66 points in the paint Friday night in the win in Denver. That was a season high. And they had 66 again tonight. So that's great. I mean, you can't beat that. 62 for the Heat. The largest lead for the Mavs was 8. That was, remember, 18-10 at one point. For the Heat, their biggest lead was 10. The assists were everything was close. It's just a 5-point game. And again, like I said, the Mavs just came up short with some big misses down the stretch. All right, let's look at some of the highlights. I'd like to just kind of make notes of things that really stood out to me about this game. And again, I love the way that this team is coming together. I mean, a week ago, right? I mean, literally before the winning streak, Jason Kidd was playing 11 guys a game, and you had different guys starting and different opportunities, and you didn't know. And if you remember, also one thing I was tough to watch is because everybody that was coming in, right? Everybody was trying to kind of get their own, right? Everybody thought, okay, this is my turn, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play, and so I need to do what I have to do. And so they looked a little disoriented. They weren't playing and flowing like a team. And I give Jason Kidd and the coaching staff credit the way that they've really been able to coach this team up. And I mean, they look really cohesive and really, really good like a unit, especially with Luka out pretty much. I mean, he came back for the game against the Pelicans, but I mean, he's been banged up, hasn't probably been practicing a lot. So I give the rest of the Mavs players credit, for coming together and playing the way that they have. They've done a really, really good job, and I think that's gonna continue. I think a couple things that stood out to me. I was gonna say, should we call PJ Washington post up PJ or put back PJ? I mean, he came up, scored the first basket of the game after the big 9-point fourth quarter performance in Denver. Great to see Klay Thompson knock down his first shot of the game, a 3 after the misses, the offer in Denver. And I love that about Klay, and it just shows you kind of the heart that he has, because instead of kind of taking a back seat after that performance in Denver and maybe just passing the whole game and just really, really waiting, he came out aggressive and went right. I mean, he started shooting early, went right for the basket early, ended up with 15 points, including 3 threes, and had a really solid game. PJ Washington had 21, Derek Lively with 14 and 13, another double-double for him. Klay with 15, as I said. Quentin Grimes, kind of a quiet game, had a couple of misses. He was 2 of 8 from the field, including 0 for 3 from beyond the 3-point line. So he did kind of back off a little bit. Maxey was scoreless. Najee had a really, really solid game. I thought in the first half, I thought Jaden Hardy, who ended up 9 minutes total with no points, he had a couple of misses that kind of hurt the flow of the offense. And again, this goes back to what I'm saying. It's like you're trying to find your shot, you're trying to get your game going, you're trying to improve. But it seemed like on this night, every time the Mavs had a critical miss, Miami would make them pay. And so that was tough. But I thought, I love the way that Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford are playing with one another, sharing the time with one another. They're not playing together, but I like the way that they're handling it. And sometimes it can be a good, healthy competition where when you get somebody that's playing well, the other guys want to follow that, and they don't want to be the guy that lets it down. And I think you have a nice, healthy competition. They don't know. Derek doesn't know, and Daniel doesn't know when they're going to, if this is set. Is Derek going to be the starter the rest of the way? Probably, but you never know. But they're both playing well, and they're both kind of feeding off of each other's game when they come in and out. So that was good. But I thought Daniel Gafford looked great off the bench. Blake Lively with some big hook shots. Felt like the Mavs really, really came out strong and really ran their offense well. And I love what Jason Kidd talked about before the game, about this new approach of kind of what he calls re-driving. And instead of just settling for threes, the emphasis is re-driving and taking the ball to the basket more and trying to get the offense going inside out as opposed to outside in. And you could see that. Now, late in the game, I thought there were again, when you're talking about a 5-point game, there were a handful of possessions where you want to go back and you think, oh man, should have taken that shot, maybe an extra pass or better look or a little more ball movement, a little more time setting up the offense. And again, these are going to be coachable moments and learning opportunities with the team and with Jay Kidd and the staff. But that was that. Like that, Kyrie hit some shots late, but unfortunately couldn't get the big shots really when they needed them down the stretch. I did not like the 8 turnovers in the second quarter. That was not good. The turnovers are not good, especially against a Heat team like this that can really make you pay. But the defense I thought was really, really good for the most part. But then the Heat really got it going again in the third quarter. They kind of came out and picked up where they left off. And I thought, again, just the missed threes were really that was really the difference in the game, especially down the stretch. And again, in the overtime, when the Heat outscored the Mavs 9-4. So those are some of the notes that just kind of stood out to me. I try to make little notes as I watch the game because there's so much going on. But like I said, I love the way that this team is coming together. I think, again, to be 17 games into the season, I think the big things are obviously you got to not only get Luka back, but he's got to stay healthy and he's got to get back to that upper echelon level if they're gonna do what they need to do. Kyrie is having just a great season, and I say this all the time. I mean, the NBA is a star-driven league, and when you have superstars on your team, you gotta savor that because look at all the teams across the league. Yeah, there are stars on every team, but only a handful are kind of at that level, and Kyrie's at that level. And I'll talk more about Kyrie, over the course of the season. But you look at what he's been through in his career and kind of where he's at now, and just the peace and the joy that he's playing with. He's in a good place. He's in a really special place, and I think if he and Luka can, down the stretch, second half of the season, really find a way to come together with this group, they can make another run. But I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, they made the finals. You're not there to make the playoffs. You're not there to make the finals again. You're there to go and win the championship. That's the goal. And I don't think that needs to be said. I think these guys know that. And I thought this was going to be a game that they were going to pull out. I really did. I thought this was going to be after some key misses in the second half. I thought those shots were finally going to go down in crunch time, and it just didn't happen tonight. All right, when we come back, you can see there, number 3, who is the host? So who am I and what am I doing here? And what about the Locked On Mavs? So we'll get into that when we come back. You're listening to Locked On Mavs POSTCAST here on the Locked On Network. We'll be right back. All right, we've got to give it up for our friends at Game Time. And you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. And the only ticketing app, Game Time, by the way, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. So many ways to save money on tickets, no matter when you buy, which is great. And the game time guarantee, you will always get the best price. That's with Game Time. And also, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Mavs postcast. My name is Jeff Biggs. The Mavs fall to the Heat in Miami, 123-118. So who am I? What am I doing here? And what is this show? Well, as I said in the opening, we are part of the Locked On Dallas podcast group. Of course, also this show will run in the Locked On Mavs podcast group as well. I'm totally butchering this, but look, Nick Anstett does an outstanding job, huge following, and nothing's going to change with Nick and his coverage. Basically, this Mavs channel, this Mavs coverage has become so big and has grown so much because of the work that Nick has done that we're adding the Locked On postcast to be here after every game. So I'm going to be with you after the games. But Nick and the crew, Isaac, slightly biased, they're going to be with you for everything else. So I'm with you. Again, my name, there it is, Jeff Biggs, longtime NBA and sports host and reporter. Got into covering the NBA in the late 80s at the end of Showtime with Magic and the Lakers and Larry Bird and the Celtics. And, of course, MJ and the Bulls in the beginning of their run and the Bad Boys with the Pistons. And I confess, what has it been, about eight years or so since the NBA really kind of shifted and became a different league with the threes. I took a little break. One of my roles in my previous life was not only covering the NBA, but I was also a traveling beat reporter with the Shaq and Kobe Lakers during their three-peat, which was awesome. Miss Kobe very much. And one of the things that I missed the NBA, and I have to confess, when the NBA shifted and became more of a three-ball game, I was kind of against it initially. I was like, I don't know about this. And there were some growing pains for sure. But I took a little break and I missed it and I wanted to get back into it, but I didn't want to just, I didn't want to just cover anything or just, I wanted to cover the best or one of the best players or the best player, two of the best players in the league. And I think the Mavs have that in Luka and Kyrie. And so to have the opportunity to cover this team and to watch Luka and Kyrie and watch them hopefully make a run back to the finals and to win the NBA championship again, I wanted to be a part of that. So I love where the game is at now. Like I said, I was kind of, nobody likes change, right? And so I wasn't kind of crazy about some of the growing pains, but I love where the game is at now. I mean, these guys are so good. They're so talented. And to be able to play the way they do and to shoot the way that they do, and just the strategy of when to take the shots and teams that can make them and the way that they can be used as daggers, it's fun to watch. And I enjoy it now. I've missed the NBA. And like I said, I really wanted to get back into it, wanted to get back into just being around great players. And I have a fondness for Kyrie. I think he's just a unique cat, to say the least. And like I said, I'll talk more about that over the course of the season. But I think Kyrie has kind of some unfinished business in his career. And I love Luka. I mean, I think he's one of the top players in the league. And, here he is now, year 7. I mean, this is prime time for him. I mean, this is time for him to, this is legacy time. This is take it to the next level, championship time. So I'm looking forward to that. I love the way this team is set up. It's a great group. I think all the pieces are there. They just need to come together, and that's the beauty of the long, grueling NBA regular season, is to kind of bake everything over 82 games and then get ready for the playoff run. And we'll talk more about that as well. The good news is we're going to be back with you tomorrow night. Quick turnaround. The Mavs are going to hit the ATL to wrap up this road trip, try to bounce back against the Hawks. I will be with you immediately after the game. I know Nick and the crew, they'll be back with you tomorrow. And again, this is just for after the games. Nothing's going to change with the Locked On Mavs podcast. That outstanding coverage is going to continue seamlessly. We're just adding this postcast to the coverage because this Mavs channel has grown so much. Anyway, hey, thank you. This was my first show tonight, so thank you very much for those of you that watched. Really appreciate it. I'm going to get more comfortable, but love doing this. Love this team. Hope to connect with you guys over the course of the season. Tough loss tonight, but some good moments, and certainly a game that the Mavs could have won, probably should have won, and they'll take away, and we'll see if they can bounce back tomorrow night in Atlanta. Once again, the final score in overtime, the Heat beat the Mavs 123-118. My name is Jeff Biggs. Thank you for tuning in, watching, and listening to the Locked On Mavs postcast. Have a good night.